Hi, this is Amy with the Hag Reads, and I am here today with a library haul. So I'm going to discuss cookbooks that I checked out, regular books that I checked out, and digital books that I have in my checked out queue. So that's basically a library haul. If those were physical books, I would have already picked them up at the library and brought them home. There's quite a few books. 3, 4, 5 regular books, 4 cookbooks, and 6 digital books. So I will try and go through them pretty quickly. I'm just going to give, some of them I won't need to because you'll know kind of the basics. I think everybody pretty much knows a little bit of what's going on here. So I'm going to talk about the cookbooks first. Now they're all on a theme. We have, well, I decided, and then my son decided to go along with this because I told him I would still make him meat. The changing I'm trying to make in my diet has more to do with long-term health goals than it does about, you know, like I've read The Omnivore's Dilemma, and I know what happens to animals on the big agri-farms out there, and it is definitely disgusting, but I'm anemic and I need a lot of protein. And so I have been a meat eater. But I've noticed that over the summer every year, we eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and easy to prepare things. And we don't cook as much beef and pork and chicken. Well, we never cook pork anymore. My son doesn't particularly care for it. But beef and chicken, we have a little bit of fish. And so we're going to try and eliminate beef and chicken altogether, and go mostly vegetarian. I still intend on eating eggs and dairy products. I'm not a terribly big fan of eggs, but you cook a lot of things that have eggs in them. And I like dairy products, and I'm older, and I could use the calcium. And yes, I do take a supplement, but it's better if you get it from natural sources. And frankly, I love cheese a lot. So, to that end, you know, yes, you can serve yourself a lot of vegetables, but I'm looking for fun and creative ways to really bring vegetarianism into a larger part of our diet. I will still eat fish and some shellfish, because this isn't about cruelty to animals for me. I'll be really honest in my view, and I'm not saying if you are a vegetarian because of the animal cruelty part. That is certainly a part of agribusiness. I completely understand it, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree with you 100%. But for me, my firm belief is that human beings are omnivores. Our denture, our teeth are meant for that kind of eating. I certainly do believe that we eat meat in much greater quantities today than we need to, and that we ever have in the past. I support hunting, especially bow hunting. I support humane farming methods, and I don't have a problem with the slaughter of animals for the feeding of people. What I do object to agri-farming where it's cruel to the animals. You know, they don't always die right away. They're scared being shunted down into the, you know, it's just an unpleasant process overall. And even someone who butchers their own animals on their own farm, you know, that's still not a walk in the park. But I do understand wanting to feed your family and that people eat meat, and human beings, as far back as it goes, have been meat eaters, just not in the quantity they are today. I think you can get a lot of what you need through vegetables, a little bit through supplements, and the combinations of the right foods will keep you healthy. And then a little bit of eggs for me. That's largely due to the anemia thing. I could probably go without fish altogether, but I would probably never completely give up dairy. And you know, eggs are just in a lot of recipes, so I don't see any reason to stop eating them. But I don't feel like milk and cheese and all of that is terribly harming to animals. in the way that meat is kind of a crueler process, and certainly the way it is raised and slaughtered today. There's nothing humane about the life of a cow on an agri-farm from beginning to end, or a pig or a chicken. It's quite disgusting. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not doing it for that reason, although that is a very valid reason. So the books I got are The Everyday Vegetarian, 365 Days of Healthy Seasonal Recipes by Jane Hughes. And this is a paperback, and it's got, you know, pretty good pictures in here, and the recipes are laid out very well. And I will be honest that I have already kind of flipped through these, so I'll tell you the ones that we're probably going to get recipes out of and the ones we're not. Eating Well, Fast Flavorful Meatless Meals by I think it's just by Eating Well. Jessie Pierce and the Eating Well Test Kitchen. The next one is Low Fat Vegetarian Mediterranean Recipes, and that is by Annie Sheasby. And then I requested a number, and the other ones haven't come in, of just different ethnicity cuisines. This is The Vegetarian Table, North Africa by Kitty Morse. Okay, now, in the interest of honesty, I looked through this book, and I've had African food out, and I liked it. But looking through this book and looking at the ingredients, nothing in here really appealed to me. That I would want to make at home. So that book will be going back, and we won't be getting any recipes out of it. Just for my own personal taste and how I like food prepared and whatnot, I am not willing to invest in the ingredients for something that sounds only moderately appealing at best. I will continue to eat African food out for sure, but I think it's just not something I want to invest time in. This book, so the first two books I read, I flipped through and looked at the recipes and the pictures and stuff, and I saw a lot of things in here that I kind of liked, and by the time I got to this one, the recipes are all pretty similar to the other two, and I think the mistake is low fat here. I'm not at all interested in low fat cooking, and yes, you can look at me and go, but you're fat, you should be. Yes, I am fat, and maybe I should be more interested in low fat products, but what happens when they make items low fat is they have to put things in that are not necessarily healthy. I think if you're considering low fat, maybe and this is what I have done and will continue to do, is I just eat less of the full fat version, because at least it's natural. There's a lot in low fat and no fat foods that are not good for you, especially eaten in large quantities. It's the same as buying yogurt that has artificial sweetener in it. What's the point of that? If you need sweetener in your yogurt, you maybe don't like yogurt. So for when I buy yogurt, I always try and buy, you know, only natural ingredients in it, because I don't think there's much point in eating a yogurt that purports to be healthy but is filled with additives and then also sugar and or artificial sweeteners. And that's the end of that tangent. I'm sorry. There were a number of recipes in this book that I found appealing, and then there were a bunch in the back that they were for like spinach. They were cooked spinach recipes. I only like raw spinach, but my son will eat spinach in any form. And the recipes actually looked interesting as a nice variation on the things I already make. And then there were a lot of recipes in this book that I liked, and I think what we're going to do is he's going to flip through it, because I've already had a flip through, and he's going to tab some of the recipes he likes with the little post-it flags, and then I'm going to go in and do the same, and then we'll look at where we overlap, and we'll discuss, you know, which recipes. I think we may wind up buying this book for sure, and possibly this one, but I think this one is probably going to be a purchase, and that's The Everyday Vegetarian. One thing I struggle with is I know as a vegetarian, maybe you just pile your plate up with a bunch of what meat eaters might consider side dishes, and that would just be your meal. I struggle with a main dish when I look at vegetarian recipes, because they talk about, the everyday vegetarian is done seasonally, I think. Is that the one that's done seasonally? Let me just go to the beginning here. Yeah, it's by season: spring, summer, fall, winter, based on what should be regionally and locally fresh and available in a specific season. But it doesn't do what most cookbooks do, which is, soups and appetizers, main dishes, divided up by meat, which this wouldn't have it, but things that are considered a main dish, and then desserts, in a separate section. So this book isn't set up like that, and I struggle to think about setting up a plate. What is the main dish portion, or do I just have to mentally adjust that there isn't a main dish? You just serve enough food that it's a complete meal, and it provides you with the protein and the vitamins and the minerals that you need every day over the course of however many meals you eat. Switching to a vegetarian diet will probably mean 4 smaller meals instead of 3 big ones. And we have already kind of started. We're still, we don't have the kind of budget where I can afford to just throw out all the meat and the products that have meat-based meat-based things in them. So we're working through the food that we have. I'm not gluttonously eating it, but it'll probably be next month before we're out of meat, like in the freezer, and we'll be totally onto a vegetarian diet unless we buy specifically some sort of meat to eat, and that would probably be fish. So we're still working on that, but I just don't have the money to throw it out and then buy all new stuff. It's not a viable option for us. I just can't. And even if I gave it away, it still doesn't give me money to buy something to replace it. So what we're doing in the meantime is starting to stock up on some of the oils and the spices and some beans and nuts and grains, so that when the transition time comes, in place of meat, we have these other things that will allow us to cook a different kind of food. And again, this is for health reasons, and I still have probably 4 or 5 cookbooks coming, but right now those 2 are the main ones. I'm going to send him back to the library with these tomorrow, because there really wasn't anything in either of them that I really wanted to cook or that sounded really good. And African ingredients, aside from the vegetables themselves, are sufficiently different from what I'm used to that I'm not quite there on taking that step. It'll be something maybe that we work up to, and that maybe I'll have found something in the occasional eating out that we do that I go, oh, I'd really love to learn how to make that specific thing, and I'll go from there. But as it stands right now, nothing in there looked particularly good to me. But it's largely in terms of preparation, not actually with a few ingredients. There were a couple of things in there where I was like, But it could be the case of I've had it before and I didn't know it was in there, so I just think it's going to be bad even though it's not. And that could just be my prejudice budding through of something that's unfamiliar to me, and I'm like, I don't like it. How do you know you don't like it? You've never had it. I just don't like it. So my 5-year-old makes an appearance in the cookbook exploration process. But because it was like the 4th one I read too, the recipes that didn't have ingredients that I wasn't sure what they would taste like or how they would play in the recipe, I'd already seen very similar ones, so there just wasn't, I don't feel there's any need to keep that one, because there's enough that's similar in these other cookbooks that I feel like, go with what because I think I definitely want to purchase this one, and I wouldn't have any interest in purchasing that one, and that's where a library comes in handy. And I'm not saying that it's not a good cookbook, it's just not for me, at least not right now. I would imagine as we get further into this, we'll want to explore more options for ways to cook vegetables. And we did already kind of get a start on this. I got a recipe off of the internet for a flatbread pizza, and I used my flatbread recipe, and that's in one of my videos further back. But I got this recipe, and it was with fresh mozzarella, tomatoes, basil. It was for a margarita pizza on a flatbread base. And I made it the other day, and I've already thought of some variations for it, but my son devoured his pizza so fast. And then he asked me today, when are we having that pizza again? And I'm like, well, you didn't get the groceries last night because I asked him to pick up. I want to make a variation on it because it was just that a margarita pizza is typically no sauce with the mozzarella, the tomato, and the basil. But I want to make a version with some, underneath the mozzarella, I want to chiffonade some spinach and lay it down and do the mozzarella over that with the tomatoes, and then I want to add a little bit of very thinly sliced mushroom to that as well. So still no sauce. You brush the flatbread with some olive oil and garlic emulsified together, and you put just that in the oven on the flatbread, and you crisp it up a little bit, and then you put on the other ingredients, and then you broil it for 5 minutes, and it was so good. The flatbread takes about... you mix it and you let it sit for half an hour, and then you roll it out and you put it in a pan and cook it. That process, aside from the half an hour of sit, takes about a half an hour. So it's an hour total for that process, which isn't really that bad. It's pretty easy to make. It's super easy to construct. But you can make that ahead of time and have them in your fridge or freeze them. And then just do the pizza prep part, which really only takes... you know, like 5 or 7 minutes to chop up the, if you're just doing the margarita part, the tomato and the basil and the mozzarella. And you do want to let the mozzarella drain, because otherwise you end up with squishy pizza. Just a word of warning. And maybe you knew that, but I have never really worked with fresh mozzarella on my own. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. But the pizza was really, really good. And so we've thought of this variation because my son really likes spinach. And I like fresh spinach. And we both love mushrooms. So we're going to try that out as a kind of a twist on a margarita pizza. I'm not overly fond of tomato sauce, but it's all right. And I do want to try and make a traditional pizza crust and do the full regular pizza with vegetables and stuff. Because that typically when we buy a pizza out or we have it delivered... I often get Peruvian cherry peppers and mushrooms, and he likes just cheese, but since he discovered my Peruvian cherry pepper pizza, he's kind of been all over that. And I like also black olives on my pizza sometimes, so we'll also do traditional pizzas at home, but we're trying to eat even less processed foods than we've ever eaten before, and that's pretty low for us. We don't really eat out all that often. We eat almost no fast food. I know, look at me, you're surprised. But it's true. We don't eat Burger King or McDonald's once in a very great while. And it's not because I'm snooty, I'm too good for McDonald's. It's just that I know it's very bad for me. And with my heart problems, that's something I definitely need to stay away from. But we're giving up Panda Express because it's mostly meat-based things. So we'll learn to make some Asian dishes at home that we like, or we'll find vegetarian versions from other places. And he was like, but they have bagged ones at work. I'm like, yes, those are full of chemicals and preservatives. It's better, I mean, that's an occasional option, but it's better if we learn to make these things at home. I am up to 20 minutes just babbling about cookbooks, so I'll do a second part for this book haul and just do the books and the digital books separately. But that's the change that we're looking at making. And I will put the recipe for the flatbread and the pizza below in case you're interested. My son's not a picky eater, but he's dubious of things he's unfamiliar with. So he heard flatbread pizza and he was like, I don't know about that, because the word flatbread entered into the pizza portion. But he sure ate it, and then he was asking for more today, and I was like, but he forgot to take a bag yesterday. He was supposed to get the spinach, the mushroom, and the tomatoes when he left work, because I still have some mozzarella left, and he didn't, and I had told him I would make it today, and he's like, but you didn't make the flatbreads, and I'm like, you didn't get the ingredients, and he was like, oh, so he's gonna get them tonight, and then I'm gonna make it tomorrow for lunch. So we just had it like 3 days ago, and he's ready for more. And that's an endorsement if ever there was one. So I'm going to end this video for here, my little cookbook library haul, and I will come back with the other half of that. Just for the interest of not having a 40-minute video, 20 is probably long enough to ramble on about vegetarian cookbooks and vegetarianism. Thank you if you have watched all the way to the end. Happy whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you are having a wonderful... I am so itchy today. I'm sorry. I will see you next time. Bye.